Hi, everybody. We're going to get started with our marketing panel. Thanks very much. So my name is Tisa Court, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. This afternoon, we have exceptional guests who are here to inform you of one of the most exciting and fastest growing fields in the industry. So before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping items that I'm going to review with you. Please just turn off or mute your cell phone for the remainder of the session today. We kindly ask that you remain seated for the entirety of this session. If you must leave, whether it's during the session or at the end, please exit through this door there. You'll only be able to receive your passport stamps from Danny or Miriam down here at the end of the session. I just ask that you postpone any of your questions to the end of the session. We're going to have a little bit of time for Q&A between you and the panelists at that time. And in case of any emergency, there are emergency exits on each side and at the top. Hopefully we won't need to use those. And finally, as many of you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. So in order to keep things efficient, I just ask that you complete your booklet during the panel and have it completely filled out when you receive your stamp from Danny or Miriam at the end. Thanks very much. So we'll get started. Here with me today, we have Doug Townsend, Director of Marketing for Taste Nova Scotia. We have Jennie King, Director of Sales and Marketing for Neptune Theatre. We also have Milton Vacon, Executive Learning Solutions Consultant for Nelson Education Limited. And we also have Laura Hawkine, Director of Inbound Marketing for Kula Partners. Help me to welcome them to the stage. So for our first question, Doug, we'll start with you. Could you just briefly describe the organization you work for and your position?
Sure. So I work for Taste of Nova Scotia. We're a non-for-profit provincial marketing organization. It's a membership-based organization. We've been around for 25 years, and I've been around for just over 8 of those years, going into my 9th year this summer. But what we do is we represent more than 180 food and drink-based businesses in the province. And we really focus on 3 areas, which include culinary tourism development, export development, and product development. So our mandates are really to work with our members to help them grow their businesses, but we're also very much involved with growing the culinary brand in Nova Scotia. So, you know, I'm a little bit biased, but I think that Nova Scotia is a real gem when it comes to all things to eat and drink. I eat and drink a lot of them all the time. And anyway, but we strongly feel that we have a great product here, and we're working hard to put Taste of Nova Scotia and Nova Scotia as a province on the culinary map. So we do all kinds of activities, both in the province and outside the province. And for me, you know, my day-to-day is never that normal. I don't have 2 days that are the same usually, which is a lot of fun. But my day-to-day includes all kinds of things, a lot of project management, so around our different marketing-based initiatives. We work on different campaigns throughout the year, different awareness campaigns. You know, we publish a culinary guide that we're actually working on right now. So that's a 96-page guide that we distribute throughout the province and abroad whenever we're doing things. I'm involved with content development, so I've even gotten into, you know, photography and video production just because we are a non-for-profit. We have very small budgets, and you know, my attitude is if we want to do something, if we can't afford to do it, pay someone else to do it, then we should learn how to do it ourselves. So we're very hands-on that way. We're only a team of 5, so we all kind of get our hands into various aspects of the business. But you know, it can also include attending events that for some people would be social events. For us, it's often work, but it's a lot of fun. And then we do a lot of activities internationally as well as far as export development goes. So we sort of rotate through the office for different trips. So we are involved, you know, with half a dozen to a dozen different international trips a year, and then different things throughout Canada as well. So it's a lot of fun. It's fun to be part of an organization that's really sort of moving a goal forward in Nova Scotia. And I'm born and raised in Halifax, so promoting my home province feels pretty natural, and it's a great thing to be involved with.
Great, thanks, Doug. Jennie, same question. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and your position?
My name is Jennie King, and I work at Neptune Theatre. People always get really excited and say, "Oh, that's so awesome. Are you an actress?" And I have to sadly tell them that I'm kind of like a performer because I am the director of sales and marketing. So there's definitely a lot of jumping up and down and waving my hands and singing and dancing. But Neptune Theatre is the largest professional regional theatre here east of Montreal. We are in our 54th season, which is one of the longest professional theatre organizations in Canada, and something for our community to be really proud of. We are everything in-house, right down from our box office and marketing, right to the productions that you see on stage. Everything is made right here in Halifax. We do 9 productions a year, 6 of them on our large main stage, Fountain Hall, and 3 more on the studio stage. And we also have a year-round theater school as well as a touring company. So our touring company travels to schools throughout Nova Scotia, visiting upwards of 25,000 kids a year, which is pretty significant. It's the first time many of them have exposure to the arts, so we're very, very proud of that. I've been there I'm going into my 9th season, and as I said, we're all very turnkey in there. I consider that we have our own little marketing agency where everything you ever see is made right in our little marketing office. We manage all of our own copy and creative website. We own our own box office, which has a lot of flexibility to really know who our customer is and their buying preferences. And essentially, at the end of the day, our job is to put bums in seats. That's the product that we sell. So we focus a lot on selling subscriptions and single tickets and getting people in through the theater. We sell an experience, and that's really what we position our brand on. We're total brand snobs. It means everything to us, and there's certainly a lot of legacy that's attached to that. So being able to manage it internally with our own messaging is really important to us. I think that's it.
Thanks, Jennie. Milton, same question. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization and your position?
Yes, my name is Milton Vacon, and I work for Nelson Education. We publish books in Canada so that students can succeed, I guess, is what we strive to do. We're very proud of the fact that Nelson has been in Canada for over 100 years. I've been in the industry myself for over 30, actually, and for 10 years with Nelson. And Nelson is a lot different than all the other publishers I've ever worked for because they are much more innovative publishers. We research the market a lot and find out what students and instructors both, how students study, because that changes a lot, or has changed a lot in the last 10 years for sure, and the instructors as well. So basically, I know I have a long title there, as somebody said earlier, but basically I promote the products. That's basically what I do. So on a day-to-day basis, what do I do? Most of the time I call on different universities around the province, and I talk to instructors and try to convince them that we have the best tools available to help students learn their studies. And obviously this is a lot more with technology these days than there was 10, 20 years ago, so we focus a lot on technology products. The rest of my times, I guess, are spent on emails, emailing customers, getting new customers, and trying to solve issues that will come up on a daily routine. We also look, as part of my marketing research doing this, I also look for people or professors to write textbooks for us so that we can continue publishing great products.
Great, thank you, Milton. And Laura, could you tell us a little bit about your organization and your position in it?
Absolutely. So I'm Laura Hawkins. I'm Director of Inbound at Kula Partners. Kula Partners is an inbound marketing and web design and development agency based here in Halifax. We're also Canada's first Hubspot Platinum partner. For those of you who aren't familiar with Hubspot, it's a marketing automation and analytics software. Pretty big in the States, but getting bigger here as well, which is great. And in terms of day-to-day, we work with clients really across North America, creating responsive websites. So responsive means it looks great on any device. As most of you know firsthand, a lot of the shift is toward mobile, so it's important that your web presence look amazing and representative of your brand, no matter what device you're looking at it from. And on top of that, we layer inbound marketing, which essentially helps businesses attract, convert, and close customers. As Director of Inbound, I lead on the marketing side of the house, and I'm responsible primarily for the strategy component of client engagements, so campaign development and also overseeing the execution. I lead a team of 6 inbound marketers, and so that team is comprised of a couple different types of, roles. They're inbound producers who handle execution, a bit of analysis and lighter strategy, engagement managers who primarily conduct client relationships, and then copywriters who create the amazing content to go on the websites. And then day to day, like I said, my days are consumed creating marketing strategies, which for those of you who are familiar with PR, that's my background, not dissimilar from creating communications plans. I review and create all aspects of marketing campaigns, so whether it's site content, blogging, email marketing, social media, online paid ads, reporting, quite a wide range of, deliverables fall under that umbrella.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. So my next question, I think, Jennie, I'll start with you. How has your career evolved, and are you doing what you had planned to do?
I actually started my career in the high-tech firm. I worked for almost 10 years in a company that manufactured and sold oceanographic equipment throughout North America and globally. And if anybody ever told me that I would be doing that in university, I would have laughed at them. But it was a really great fit to actually get with the company and learn my way through my field from the ground up. I now know that nitrate absorbs at 347 nanometers, which seems really random, but those are the kind of things you learn when you're starting from the ground and working your way up. I left that company primarily because I wanted an opportunity to be more engaged with my community. So I went out to find something that did that, and ended up at Neptune. And for me personally, it was a natural fit. I have a deep appreciation and love for the arts, and I love that I get to sell a product that I believe in and that I think makes a difference. So I've absolutely have found a good home for myself. I actually just joked here that when I was asked how long I've worked at Neptune, it feels like it's been 100 years. But I think that I'll still be there for a long time. And it's really important to be in a position and working for a company that you believe in. And it certainly makes a great job satisfaction as well as something very fulfilling.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennie. Milton, the same question. How has your career evolved, and are you doing what you plan to do?
I don't know too many people that plan to do what they're going to do when they get to university, because when I was in university, I kind of read books and that was it. But to think that I'd ever be selling books or somewhere out there in the cloud, it wasn't there those days. But anyway, the opportunity came when I graduated. I guess it was quite a long time ago, as some of you have guessed, and jobs weren't that easy to get. And this opportunity came by a friend of mine that told me that this publisher was advertising a position. So I said, well, I'll try this. And I did, got the job, obviously, and it was really good. There was a lot of flexibility. Our head offices are in Toronto. So my closest boss was in Toronto, so that was nice. So I'm a guy that doesn't like to go and do just the same task every day. And so I like the flexibility. I went to Toronto my first trip. They gave me a new car. That was pretty cool. I'm from a very small community in Nova Scotia. So things were looking pretty good, and then I enjoyed working and helping people, right? And so I enjoyed really calling on customers, on professors, and selling textbooks. And about 4 or 5 years into the business, I had a lot of opportunities to advance. I was asked 4 or 5 times to move to Toronto, and I didn't want to relocate for obvious reasons of family and things like that. And so the furthest I ever got around without moving was to be a supervisor at one point, but you needed to relocate to go any further. So I guess that since I really loved what I did anyway, I decided at that point, since I said no to all the promotions, I accepted the fact that I would do this for a long time, which is what I'm doing.
Great. And Laura, same question.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, my educational background is public relations from the Mount. In my co-ops, I always had roles that were a bit of a blend of PR and marketing, and even after graduating. Actually, my first job out of university was with Neptune Theatre. Jennie used to be my boss, so it all comes full circle. Pretty cool. Yeah, I love my time there. I guess eventually I was drawn to agency for the learning opportunities and exposure to many different clients and their business challenges. And I started with Kula Partners about 4 years ago, and at that time they were squarely focused on web design and development, and I was their very first marketing hire. So pretty startup-y type of agency environment. So they hired me as a producer. Couple years, or maybe a year later, we became Hubspot Partners. So, like I said, HubSpot is a software. They combine analytics, marketing automation, so email, content management, everything. And at that time, becoming a HubSpot partner, essentially what we were doing is trying to grow more on the marketing side, because we were doing, website project after website project, but there's this whole other aspect of having a website, and that's the marketing that's layered over top. So we saw an opportunity to, I guess, expand our business offering and client base by building that in. 2 years ago, I was appointed director of inbound, and we began growing our marketing team quickly to match, I guess, delivering on that offering. And for a while, I was still, from a role perspective, focusing on some day-to-day client interaction and tactical execution, so the actual doing of the work that was being planned. But we've recently restructured a little bit so that I can focus mostly on delivering strategy and then helping my team get better. So yeah, I guess I've very much grown with the company that I've been with. I perhaps didn't expect my career to be so squarely focused in digital when I was in university, but at the same time, it's very much where growth is. There's a huge demand for it. Like I said, we work with clients across North America. I would say even maybe almost 50% of our business is out of the States. People really need, I guess, the expertise that we're able to offer. And it's a rapidly evolving landscape. So, for example, inbound marketing didn't exist when I was in school. And that was only 5 years ago.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. And Doug, same question for you.
Yeah, so when I was in school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, partly because I was sort of just focused on passing all my courses and making it to class. But I really learned a lot from school. I was a graduate from Dal, and I was fortunate enough to be part of the co-op program in their management school there. So I did two out of my 3 co-op programs terms with Eastlink, and that was in the early 2000s. So that was right when Eastlink and Alliant were battling, and Eastlink was the small, scrappy player that was trying to take market share from the big guy. And I was fortunate enough to kind of move my way through the company in sales, and then I worked sort of the second half of my time there in marketing. And it was really interesting, got to do a lot of neat stuff, learned a lot about that sort of world where there's 2 very similar products that are competing, and it's a very tactical kind of world that we lived in. But I can't say that I was super passionate about telecommunications. And the company culture was a little more conservative than what I was seeking out, but it was a great place to learn. And I firmly believe that working in various jobs not only allows you to figure out what you want to do, but it also helps you figure out what you may not want to do. And I wanted to kind of get my hands into a lot more things, and when you're in a bigger company, you kind of get a little more pigeonholed, I guess. So I actually left, and I worked on a startup project, which was completely outside of telecommunications. But it was at a time when, in 2008, when there was a bit of a crisis financially, and the project I was working on had some issues around that. And basically, it was kind of fate, I guess, in a way. I've always been really, really passionate about the culinary world. Knew I didn't want to become a chef necessarily, but always wanted to figure out how to get more involved with cooking and being involved with that side of things. And so this opportunity came up through a connection, and met with my current executive director at the time, and we basically chatted and met, and she pretty much hired me on the spot. So that was 9 years ago, and I feel like Jennie and I have a lot of similarities. It was a long time ago, I guess, in terms of how long I've been in the position, because people generally don't stay in positions for that long these days. But it's been amazing because I've been involved with kind of creating my own role and evolving my own role. And because we're such a small team, I do get to get my hands into everything. There's a lot of creativity. And it's been great to work for an organization that is really advancing a cause, and so I can, it's easy to be passionate about, so it doesn't really always feel like work. But if you had told me this is what I would have been doing when I was in university, I kind of would have laughed at you and said, yeah, right, eating and drinking for a living, sure, yeah, that doesn't sound possible. But I think if you kind of follow your passions, you'll end up maybe finding what you love to do. I feel very fortunate that my career path has kind of led me to where it is now.
That's great, thank you. So Milton, for the next question, I'll start with you. And it's actually a three-part question. What do you like about your work, and what do you dislike about it, and what areas do you find the most challenging?
Okay, like I said before, I really enjoy meeting people and helping people, new customers, and old customers alike, or customers I've dealt with for a long time. As two professors, one disappeared, as one of your professors there can attest to. I've known him for a long time because of the business that I do. I love building relationships with people and building trust. Once people have trust in you, then it's amazing what will happen. So I like those things. I love the marketing research part of it as well. As I told you, and today we do a lot with students directly in terms of especially their technologies, sometimes their different buying behaviors that they're quite different than 10 years ago. So we try to do some workshops and that with students to try to find out all those behaviors. Because of all these extra things that are happening, the technology, and that there's a lot of projects that come in from the head office that's put on our shoulders, and to me that's one of the things I dislike, because it's basically taking me away from doing what I know I do best, and that's being in front of my customers, right? My motto that I've had for years was my service is second to none, is usually what I go by. What's the big challenges today? I think it's probably the challenge of balancing work and your life itself, because it's such a busy world, and we've got a lot of, like, my internal customers now, which is my head office, my external customers, and all the different issues that come around. They don't take any responsibilities away from you, they just keep pouring it. So I guess that balance of work and life is what I find the most challenging sometimes.
Great, thanks Milton. And Laura, same questions for you.
Sure. So starting with what I like, I love being exposed to new businesses and their challenges. Jennie was actually asking me earlier, kind of, what clients do you specialize in? And really right now we serve a very wide range of businesses. So everything from omega-3 supplements, which are sold online, to we're working with a used car dealership out of Winnipeg that is looking to actually start trying to sell vehicles, good quality used vehicles online, to orthodontists and data management and software companies. So as a result of that, I'm exposed to a lot of different types of people and businesses, and so I'm constantly learning by doing, which is awesome. I also love that the role, I get to blend, I guess, creative and analytical I guess it's a blend of, creative and analytical requirements for the role. So on one hand, you have to be coming up with good ideas for content, or be able to contribute ideas for maybe what a design looks like. Not that I design, I leave that to the experts, but just from the point of view of juices flowing and having a vision for a deliverable. But at the same time, we need to be able to measure and analyze performance. Whereas everything is online and the platform we use is analytics driven, that is hugely important. So statistics ended up coming in very handy. And I also love that the field is constantly evolving, but at the same time, that can be a bit of a challenge. There's always something new to learn, but things change very, very rapidly, so there's a lot to stay on top of. So in addition to being good at what you do now, clients are always wondering about different offerings. There's always a different software coming out that could help you do something. So it's a lot of, there's quite a bit to keep up on in the industry. And working, it's, like I said, it's a bit of a startup-y type of agency environment where we've grown so quickly over the last couple years. So it's been fast-paced, which is great, and I love that about it, but it can definitely be demanding. So no light 30-hour work weeks, that's not really, not really in the repertoire, but when you love the work, that definitely helps. Also, I guess a two-sided and challenge is the managing people aspect, which has been pretty new to me over the last year or two. So I love basically helping people become better at what they do and hone their craft. Like I said, I get a huge thrill out of that, but it's also, it can be difficult being responsible for other people's performance, and I guess, and especially as a younger person, kind of commanding the respect you need to get results from people. And honestly, the business is growing quickly, so it's tough to predict exactly what things will look like a couple months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. So we're becoming better at adding structure as we go, but I think it'll always feel, when you're in a growing environment, that you always have training wheels on. So I think you need to be comfortable with that. So I guess be comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Doug, same three-part question for you.
Sure. So I mean, I love a lot of things about the work that I do. Primarily, it's the industry. Like I mentioned, we work with over 180 businesses throughout Nova Scotia. And most of them are owner-operated, very entrepreneurial style businesses. And I really love that because, in all honesty, a lot of these people aren't making a lot of money at what they're doing. And a lot of them are doing it purely because they're passionate about it. And those are the kind of people I like to work with. They're not necessarily motivated by just making money. Obviously, that's an important part of it, but they really believe in what they're doing. So I've gotten to know a lot of the people that I work with really well. A lot of them have become really close friends, which has been something that I couldn't have imagined when I started. So that's been fantastic. I think that one of the other things that I love, where I've been able to kind of be very self-directed in what I do. I spend a lot of time reading and learning about things. I love to learn, so I'm fortunate enough to have that opportunity. So, whether it's conferences or just doing my own learning, I do a lot of that just because it's, as Laura mentioned, this landscape, is changing quickly. So, it's important to stay on top of a lot of different trends and different technologies, all that kind of stuff. And I also have a really great opportunity to be creative, which I think is something that keeps me motivated. It's not always creative. There's a lot of dry stuff that I have to deal with, but there's a lot of projects that I work on throughout the course of a year that are very interesting. And also, lifestyle, and what I do is very important. I work in an industry that I love, so a lot of it doesn't necessarily feel like work. But I also am very fortunate where I work in my own neighborhood. My wife's business is across the street. And I work for a non-for-profit, so I'm not probably going to get rich doing what I'm doing. But it's hard to, put a dollar figure on those kind of benefits with work. So as far as what I dislike, I mean, I was taking a few notes for today, and I was having a lot of trouble putting it's like going into a job interview. It's like, what are you bad at? And it's like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. It's like, but yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, like there's certainly things that are challenging about any job, but you know, with our organization, we're a non-for-profit. We rely heavily on government funding. So, you know, it's very fluid in that sense. You know, we're kind of always fighting for our own existence, which is unfortunate sometimes, because we really feel strongly that we're making a difference in what we're doing. And because of that, you know, we have very limited resources. Our budgets are small. Our team is small. So we have big ideas, and we're very, very enthusiastic, passionate, hard workers, everything like that. But really, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. So that can be very challenging and frustrating at times. But we see the big picture, and I think most of my colleagues and I are in it for the long run. So, you know, sometimes change feels like it's happening slowly, but then other times it's, you know, there's revelations and it makes it all worthwhile. So, you know, definitely I like my job more than I dislike it, in case you're wondering. So, but yeah.
Great, thanks. And Jennie, we'll finish off that question with you.
I feel really honored to work for an iconic organization like Neptune Theatre. Again, it's something that I'm really proud of. Things that I love about it actually is being on the ground and getting to help create what is on stage. You know, to work with a really talented team of people and creative artists and performers it's pretty special, and we like to dream really big and then manage our expectations from there. We also are a not-for-profit organization, so with that comes really challenging situations like government funding and you know, donorships and sponsorships. It's all an evolving world, and that does fall under my job title. So it can be very challenging out. I always say I'm hunting for money and looking for the next opportunity to essentially sell something, which helps put what you see on stage. About 60% of our revenues are covered by the tickets that we sell. So we have to make up another 40%, and on a $4 to $5 million budget, that can be really challenging in the run of a year. But again, we always get to reinvent ourselves every couple of weeks. I always say once the show kind of closes and a new one comes in, I love that we get to recreate something all over again, and we kind of always get to start things over, which makes it, again, a really exciting and inspiring place to work. I think that's actually it.
Thank you. Laura, we'll start with you for the next question. Can you tell the students about the types of jobs that might be available for them considering a career with your company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like the couple last years that I've worked at Kula, we have lots of aggressive growth planned for this year. So there will be lots of hiring happening on our team. So pretty much we'll be hiring for all types of roles on the inbound side. So we'll be hiring for producers, copywriters, engagement managers. Yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunity coming up over the next little bit. So
we'll keep you on our radar.
Absolutely.
And Doug, the same question for you.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, you know, we're a not-for-profit, very small team. You know, I've been the only marketing guy for the last 8 years, so unless I get fired, you're not getting my job. But joking aside, we do hire students for work terms regularly. We have internships. We encourage students to volunteer with us. We're always involved with events and that sort of thing. But, you know, I always say when people ask about job opportunities, you know, it's a big industry, the culinary, hospitality, tourism world. And there are a lot of great jobs out there. It's just a matter of getting out there and meeting people in the industry and kind of figuring out what your place might be. But yeah, there's some really awesome stuff to do in Nova Scotia when it comes to this industry. And I think that, you know, having the foundation and the education that you guys have right now, I think would lend itself really well. You know, we're always looking for enthusiastic people to enter the industry here, and I firmly believe that you don't have to leave Nova Scotia to find a great job and do what you love to do. So, yeah.
Great. Jennie.
I feel like we shouldn't have sat so close to each other because I have to echo a lot of what you're saying. But I might actually just sort of expand on though there's maybe not, unless I leave or lose a member of our small but mighty team, we would always encourage people to come and volunteer, and we also do a lot of co-op and work-term positions. But the creative economy in general in Halifax, I think, is really alive and well, and they're all looking for really great people with PR and marketing backgrounds or sales experience. So I would encourage anybody to get out there and visit or donate your time or try for a work term at any one of those really creative places.
That's great, thank you. And Milton?
Yes, at Nelson, or publication companies, you've probably gathered that we're going through a big transition right now. 10, 15 years ago, there was only books that we produce. Now there's books and technology. So we're kind of going along these two parallels, which creates some of the challenges I said before. But because of that, it does create a lot of job opportunities in the head office, especially customer service, for example. We have a huge technology department, which if you like technology, that would be a good place. We have marketing coordinators that coordinate people like us, marketing managers. In the editorial, the whole editorial side, product development, there's a lot of opportunities there for sure. We do have internship programs for those divisions there. And of course, there's always the position that I'm in, which is a very good position to begin a company, because a lot of people have the idea that they should start a company in the middle of it and move up from there. But if you don't experience it from the very beginning, from down in the streets, if you want, then you're going to miss something. Because I see it all the time when we hire people from outside the industry, especially into a management situation. It usually doesn't work out very well, and if it does, it works out with a lot of frustrations by everybody, because they don't understand the fundamental of the company.
All right, great, thanks so much. So for the next question, we'll start maybe back with you, Doug. If you had to do your career over again, would you do anything differently?
So when I was thinking about this question, it was kind of a tough question to answer, because I'm very happy with where I am in my career right now. So no, I guess. But that's probably not true, because there were a lot of periods leading up to now that weren't the most pleasant times in my life, because I didn't feel as fulfilled as I wanted to feel in my career. But if I was to do anything differently, I think earlier on, I think I would have taken more time to improve what myself. So I think earlier in my career, I was kind of, went to work, did my job, tried to do the best I could at that, but I didn't take time outside of that to really learn on my own and to improve myself as as a person and as an employee. And so I think that is a very important thing. I also probably didn't take as many opportunities as I could have to learn from my colleagues. I've worked with some incredible people over the years that were tremendous resources with tons of experience, and I didn't really take the opportunity to kind of tap their knowledge and learn from their experience. So I think that's a thing that's often overlooked, especially when you're in a bigger company too. You're surrounded by experts, and often I think people are really happy to share their knowledge and happy to share their stories and experiences. So those are a few things that I'd change, but I think that I was meant to be in this job, so I think that the greater power, whatever that is, had an idea for my career path, so I don't think I would have changed anything now, or else I might not have ended up where I am. So
Great, thank you. And Jennie, what would you do differently, if anything?
I don't think so. I think, again, everything that you've sort of done leads you to where you are today. I think if to go back in time, maybe when I was closer to your age, I might have done more community initiatives and get more involved. Halifax in particular, it's a fairly small city, and there's lots of opportunities to network and meet lots of people that will help you on your career along the way. So I wish that when I was younger I knew that then, because I definitely would have spent more time building a network and making connections. But overall, I think the career I had led me to where I am today, and I don't think I would do anything differently.
Thank you. Milton, same question for you.
Yeah, as I indicated earlier, I had made a decision a long time ago to not relocate to Toronto, and that definitely stopped my promotion path. But on the other hand, I was thinking deeply that at the time, and I love to help people, like I've said to you before, but managing people and helping people are two different things altogether, right? And the skill sets that's required for the management of people, it's not something that I personally, like a lot of people get high on that, I guess, or whatever you want to say, but it didn't mean much to me at the time, so I said no at the time. So, but if I could change that now, looking back, I would probably have gone to Toronto, and I was scared at the time if I'd go, I wouldn't come back, because I knew I wanted to come back, so that's why I didn't go at all. But looking back many years later now, I probably would have gone, not to be in a management position, but just to learn, to be out there with the corporation for a little bit and just learn everything else that I could about the industry. And I think then coming back, even to do what I could do now, would have made me that much more knowledgeable, much more successful. So.
Okay.
It sounded like I regretted my decision, but I didn't. But I was trying to put it out in a good way.
If you had to pick something.
Yes, thank you.
Laura, we'll move on to you. Same question.
I would say I'm still pretty early into my career. For now, I'm definitely happy with the direction it's headed and the growth path I've had. So I'm not sure I'd necessarily do things that differently. Maybe ask me in 5 years. But in all seriousness, I think that maybe in retrospect, when I was in school, it might have been valuable to get a bit more out of my comfort zone with electives. Things like, I've certainly had to learn some things on the job, things about how to manage a budget, or what does a financial sheet look like. A lot of times, because we are so, I guess, intertwined with sales aspects, like marketing to support sales for our clients, you have to understand how numbers work and how financials work, and it's something that fortunately, I have a little bit of a head for it, so was able to learn on the job. But like I said, in retrospect, it would have been really valuable maybe instead of, not that there's anything wrong, I think that it's good to learn for the sake of learning, but maybe I would have made better, I guess, use of electives had I had forced myself into something, like I said, finance and the intro to accounting, something that didn't really come naturally to me, but would be beneficial later on. And even for both business purposes, but even as an individual, to learn how to manage your money and have a bit of a head for that. So I guess if I had to give someone advice based on that, it would be, you still get to pick lots of your courses. Maybe there is something along the lines of that might be not necessarily come naturally to you, but may be of benefit later in your career.
Okay, that's great advice. Jennie, we'll move on to our last question. How can students improve their chances of landing a marketing job when they graduate?
I guess marketing 101 is to set yourself apart from everybody else. I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and I'm still actually in awe that people haven't quite defined who they are and how to sell themselves. So I think it's really critical to, when you find yourself across the room from somebody, to be really sure of what your assets are and what you are really good at, and understanding the company and what you can bring to that company, and ensuring that whether it's your message or sort of a literal leave by, that you're making an effort to separate yourselves from everybody else.
Milton, what would you say can improve students' chances of landing a marketing job when they graduate?
I'm going to echo a little bit about what Jennie said there, that the more you get involved with things, the more you volunteer about things. It can start here at the university. Basically, the more people you get in contact with, the better you're going to have a chance to land a job out there, for sure. I've taken notes on this one because I have lots of advice here, I think, right? Find a way, again, I'm echoing what the words that Jennie said there, find a way to stand out positively. And I'll give you an example of this and how it worked out for a student. As I told you earlier, we do a lot of focus group with students. So I went to a particular class about 5 weeks ago. at a community college, and we were talking to students that were using my technology product. And in my 30 years of doing this one student really stood out about like how she was using technology and how it was helping her. So basically after our focus group, I went over and introduced myself and talked to her a little bit more, and she was like amazing to me what she was doing with our technology. She was teaching me stuff about it actually. So I said, would you care to come and talk to some students? Like students talking to other students are sometimes very effective. So she agreed to do this, and we went to 2 classes, and then not next week, the following week is their March break. So we actually have our director of marketing coming to visit the student, and with a camera team, and she's going to be videotaped, and she's going to be put on our website to promote our products. So, and they're going to offer an internship for the summer. So that's just to give you a good indication, because that student stood out, and like she's really benefiting big times from this, right? And just the internship's just a minor thing for her. I'm not even sure she's going to take it. I told my marketing manager or our director of marketing that she should get offered one, and I'm not sure she'll accept it. But just up to now, like to add this to her resume, and the experience that she's going through and talking with some high like director of marketing and that, it's really good. So just stand out there the best way you can. And also, like last week, we were actually doing some interviewing for a position in Ottawa, and I got an email from this lady on LinkedIn, which I didn't know, and she sent me an email to ask me what my thoughts were about the company, because she's thinking of interviewing for the job. It was kind of a weird email. I had never gotten this before. And then I talked to my boss about it. And obviously it showed that this lady had a little bit of initiative. She was looking there, doing some research about the company she was about to apply for, and she wanted to know firsthand. So believe me, it got her raised up on the interview panel quite high, just from doing that. So there's all kinds of ways out there, for sure. What else? Do I have something else here? Yeah, you need to, you have to have good communication skills. I think that's the number one thing that employers are looking for these days is communication skills. And also computers. I started, when I went to university, there was no computers around, right? Now I'm indulging computers every day. So I had to go through quite a bit of transition there for sure. But even today, and when I say computers and technology, I don't mean texting and Facebook and Twitter. You got to do a lot more than that. You got to know databases, Excel and Word, because you're going to need to work with all these intertwinedly. And I guess I'll leave you with this other last resort, I think, is that you need to learn how to work, and university environment's the best for this, but you're going to need to learn to work successfully in teams. Because if you're going to go in a big organization, it's going to be full of teams everywhere, teams for everything, right? If you can't work, if you're one of that individual that can't work well with a team, you won't do well in that particular company. That's it.
Great, thank you, Milton. And Laura?
Sure. So right off the bat, the company that I was mentioning earlier that we are partnered with, Hubspot, and for anyone who's taking notes or interested, that's HUBSPOT. They offer an inbound certification, which is completely free. Literally anyone can do it. It's made up of different training, videos, resources, everything online. And then at the end of it, you can complete a test. And if you pass, you get this inbound certification. And you can add a badge to your LinkedIn profile. And HubSpot is pretty well known. I guess it's becoming even better known in the marketing community. So that is a nice little thing that is, like I said, completely free to do. It's not a huge time investment and can kind of set you apart. And certainly if someone were to land on our doorstep, already having an inbound certification, that would give you massive brownie points right off the bat. It's actually something that we ask all of our inbound team members to complete, usually within the first couple weeks of starting, but if they arrive on our doorstep with it already, that shows a ton of initiative and you're already ahead of the curve and can more likely to hit the ground running in a work environment. So, and yeah, and the other thing about that certification is that it covers things you won't necessarily learn in school, but that would be incredibly valuable for employers, where having a grasp on digital is so important in marketing today. And I think that there is a bit of I think that especially more traditional organizations might lean on our generation and expect us to be knowledgeable and competent and be able to bring fresh ideas in that regard to an organization. So having, I guess, the actual experience to back that up coming into the workforce is an asset. I also think that it is advantageous to have a bit of an online portfolio. I know at least in public relations, it was practice for us to create portfolios. At that time, it was still physical. Since then, I think that, I don't know whether it's part of the curriculum or not, but I know that most people do have, are beginning to showcase that online. I think that is a brilliant idea, particularly if you're looking to work in agency or digital or really anywhere, because like I said, it is kind of a core competency for the most part if you're looking to work in marketing today, is familiarity with digital. And so having like an online portfolio or even a blog, if you have it doesn't even need to be about marketing specifically, anything you're interested in that can kind of showcase creativity, the way you think, showcase writing ability, and be able to show an employer that and give them a little taste for your personality and also your capabilities, I would definitely recommend that. And while it can take a bit of time to do, there are ways you can do it pretty much for free or very skinny. For example, WordPress is a free blog. You can create a template, and if you have, everyone has a smartphone with a camera, easy to like incorporate images. There are lots of different things you can do without a ton of budget, but that can be a nice differentiator. Adding to that, I think that honing your analytical skills as a marketer is increasingly important. We're kind of beyond the days of just like spray and pray, if you've ever heard that term, of just like maybe throw up some ads and you can spend so much money putting ads places, but if you have no idea the return they're bringing you, then it's a detriment, really. And so the ability to measure and focus on results is huge, and I think that most organizations will appreciate if that's your attitude. If you're a results and data-driven marketer, there is pretty much no organization that is not going to value that out of the gate. So that helps you kind of it helps you both I guess, demonstrate return on investment for your marketing activity, make data-driven decisions. And I would say that a good starting point is if you have your own blog or site, like I was just saying, your own online platform, integrate Google Analytics with that, get that set up. Even if you have like a technical friend, if you're not sure how to do it, but there are even tutorials and that sort of thing online. It can be done. And I would definitely recommend, if you do have a web presence of any kind, getting Google Analytics on it and starting to understand how that works. There are a ton of free resources. It's Google, so of course there are a ton of free resources that will kind of teach you how to interpret data and what to look for. So having a bit of a toe in that is definitely wise, I would think. I'll also close by saying that Kula Partners, we host quarterly events called Hubspot user groups at our office on Brunswick Street. And we also have a keg on tap, and they're free to attend, so beer, wine, all that good stuff. We actually do get work done, I swear, despite the keg on tap. And an amazing espresso machine, I should add. But anyway, our next event is at the end of the month. It's on March 29th, and it's going to be focused on sharing tips and kind of from the trenches experience of navigating employment in the wonderful world of marketing once you graduate. So the timing is great. And if you're interested, I've shared the link with Tessa, but in case you're taking notes and you would like to register for the event or just learn a little bit more about it, it's halifax.hubspotusergroups.com. Like I said, it's completely free to register. Beer and wine will be provided. And part of our hosting these is to be more in touch with recent grads. Like I said, we have a lot of aggressive growth planned for this year, and we're always looking for bright young minds to join us, or not so young. It doesn't really matter. If you're bright and you're interested in what we do and are I guess, interested in our offering, then we are certainly looking to grow our team, and it would absolutely be in your benefit to attend. So like I said, I've shared the URL, so if you didn't, I'll say it one more time, halifax.hubspotusergroups.com, and if not, it might be shared around perhaps afterwards, so encourage you to attend.
You'll all get an email from me shortly, I'm sure, with all that information if you didn't have a chance to write it down. So Doug, we'll just finish off with you with the same question, and then we will open up the floor to students to ask you guys some questions. So how can students improve their chances of landing a marketing job when they graduate?
Just one question for Laura. Good quality local beer and wine at the event?
Absolutely,
Okay.
Unfiltered.
Okay.
If you're familiar
great.
with Unfiltered Brewing, we
Absolutely.
did their web and logo.
Just wanted to clarify.
And Bishop Cellar is one of our best clients as well.
I knew that, yeah.
So
That's
we're
great.
all over it.
Awesome. All right, to answer the question. So, I mean, without repeating some of the other great things that the rest of the panel said, you know, I'd echo what Laura was saying there about having a presence online. I think the idea of, as much as it kind of makes me squeamish to say, but I think it's really important, like personal branding, like thinking of yourself as a brand, at least professionally, like it goes a long way. Because inevitably, when someone's going to hire you, I can almost guarantee they're going to look you up, whether it's on Facebook. So if you don't want them to see what's going on, please make sure that's private. But on social networks, I think it's really important if you are interested in sort of a creative area in the marketing world, by all means make sure you showcase your work, whether it's photography or whether it's writing or whatever. I think it's very important and make it easy to be found. I think making sure to staying current, like knowing what the trends are. You know, there's lots of blogs, there's lots of things out there that you can follow, and being curious about that kind of stuff. You know, I remember professors telling us when I was in school to, like, you know, read the newspaper, and didn't do much of it back then. I mean, no one, oh, well, I shouldn't say no one, but a lot of people don't read the newspaper anymore. They read a lot of stuff online. It could be the newspaper, but it could be a lot of other things. And now I do all the time. That's just that's part of my daily routine. And I think, you know, trying to be passionate about what you do is important. You know, I think that comes across in if you're doing interviews, and I think it goes a long way for when people are hiring, especially someone in an entry-level position. You know, I know for us at Taste of Nova Scotia, you know, someone's enthusiasm and passion for the work is often what gets them hired. It's often what sets them apart. And then one last thing, you know, I've worked in Halifax, now in Dartmouth, but you know, I've been here since I left school. And you know, I think this can apply probably anywhere, but I would highly recommend that you never burn bridges. It can feel like it might be appropriate at times, you know, like if you are working with a supplier and then they upset you and then you know, say things that you maybe shouldn't, or talk about someone behind their back, like any of that stuff in this kind of industry or this community can come around when you least expect it, because I know that I've worked with people that I thought I would never work with again, and sure enough, you know, I come and work with them again years down the road. So I've said that to a lot of people before, and I think it's important anywhere that you work that you never burn bridges, because there's always an opportunity down the road to work with somebody again. And I think if you can maintain a great relationship with that person, it will only serve to benefit you. So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Doug. I'll open the floor now to students. For anyone that wants to ask a question, if you don't mind, just raise your hand. And once you ask your question, I'll repeat it back into the mic for everyone to hear. Oh, wonderful. Any questions?
I have one question. My name's Taylor Albert. I'm your business student here for now. I have one question for Milton. Some of the technology changes that you guys have to go through, would you share like some of the technology changes that are there now rather than just the standard technology?
So the question was, can you share some of the technology changes and things like that that you've been dealing with lately?
Thank you for that question. It started about 15 years ago when we decided to move to technology, where we just basically took the textbook and did an electronic version of it, okay? It's a PDF file. And we were surprised that that didn't change things too much. I'm not sure if you were, but basically just we students hate to read more and more these days than textbooks, so why did we think that they would read more online? So we had to get a little bit more aggressive than that, so we decided what can we do next. So then we started with basically like flashcards and quizzes and things like that online. And then we started seeing students using those a lot more. And even without instructors recommending it, we were following traffic of students. And then by talking to a lot of students, they would tell us what they would like, right? So it's now evolved to the next stage where we, we have this product we call Mindtap, okay? And into this product called Mindtap, actually the textbook, you can listen, or the textbook will be read to you in both male or female voice. And that's going to come in other languages, not too far down the road. And it has a lot of other things in the same program, which it has a lot of homework assignments for students to practice and practice, where you'll get immediate feedback on how you're doing on that quiz. So if you had a test on chapter 2 and 3 coming up next week, and you did this quiz and you only got 10 out of 100, that's probably an alert that says, oh, okay, maybe I need to study a little more for this quiz. So we call them quizzes for indicators, so they could be indicators to you. They can actually be indicators to instructors as well, because they can get a demographic of where the class is with certain topics. There's even a place there for instructors to tape their lectures and make those available to you. So it's coming around to be quite, it's the homework portion, I think, that's really evolved quite nicely now, because we have some software where they randomly generate problems. So let's say you and your colleague are in the library working together and working on chapter 3 on the same topic, and you open up your computers and you come to the problem material, you're going to have a different problem than your buddy next door, but it's going to be the exact same concept that's being tested, right? And then once you try that one and don't succeed 100% at it, it's going to give you lots of feedback on hints on where you went wrong, and then you press a button that says try another one, and it's going to generate another question with different numbers and things like that. So that's the things that are really catching on and helping people study up. Okay, does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you.
I have a microphone if you would like to ask your question.
Sure. Well, I guess I'll start by kind of answering your question around how PR translates to marketing now in my current role. I would say that there was a lot of carryover in a couple of different senses, and a lot of, I guess, assets that I gained from my PR education. First and foremost, the ability to think strategically. So putting together a communication plan, being able to I guess understand an issue or a client or a project from, you know, 1,000-foot view, and then translate that to, okay, well, what are the objectives? What are we going to do to achieve them? How are you going to measure that? It translates, yeah, every day into the marketing world. I would even say that in the type of marketing that I do, inbound marketing, it does remind me of PR in the sense that mutually beneficial relationships. I'm sure that is familiar, but certainly inbound marketing, that is kind of, I guess, the tenet of it is that the idea with inbound marketing is that the content that you're creating ideally should be helpful to the person that is I guess, consuming it. And that is kind of what helps you build a relationship with someone. So for example, maybe for like someone would come to your website and they're a nameless, faceless visitor, but you want to turn that person into a lead so that you can figure out who they are and start building a relationship with them by providing them with helpful information. So maybe you would have a guide, and in order to get the guide, they would have to sign up and give you their email address, so that by providing them value, you get something in return. So they get the guide that's going to help them answer the question that they can't find that information anywhere else online, and in return, you get the email and the permission to continue engaging with them. So I think that there's a parallel in that sense as well. Also, the writing component, where writing is such a strong part of public relations, and it is the ability to write persuasively translates to marketing in a huge way. But I guess kind of the delineation is that it's at the end of the day, the goal is to sell something. At the end of that, kind of, if you look at what's the purpose of marketing, it's for a sale to occur, whereas with PR, I guess the end objective can be a little bit more, not vague, but a little bit, it's kind of like, did you influence public perception? And maybe that would have impact on sales, but it's not, okay, did this person, because of the way that I've laid out the page and the copy that I've had, end up purchasing their omega-3 supplement that they had been looking for? So does that kind of answer the question? Awesome.
Yeah, so we are a small team, and I'm the marketing guy, but we also have a communications, one of my colleagues is a director of communications. So we have some pretty epic battles in the office. They're always friendly, of course. But it's interesting because they are very different roles in a lot of ways, but the more and more, I think these days they become a lot more blended. But there are challenges when it comes to like traditional PR. That kind of communication sometimes don't translate as well as I'd like them to sometimes when it comes to communicating with consumers. Because I think sometimes, especially with content development these days, consumers want to, like, part of what we're always struggling with is just establishing a voice and a persona, I guess. And if you follow very traditional PR kind of way of doing things, sometimes that can be difficult because you're not necessarily writing with a specific style, or a very formal kind of style guide or whatever. So we're always kind of, battling over that because I like things, especially with our consumers, to be a little more conversational, a little more laid back, sometimes kind of funny maybe, or I at least think sometimes it's funny, but probably no one else does. But that can be difficult sometimes. There's a little bit of, and then there's also, what my motivation is about getting a message across might be completely different for my colleague. So it's, but I think over the years, we've been working together for like 6 years now. And we've had lots of debates over that time, but now finally we're really starting to, we're working hand in hand on like a content strategy. And I think that's been really helpful to figure out, how we work together and get each other's messages across, without, conflicting with one another. So, but it isn't easy. And I don't think that there's an answer to that, but I do think that the world of marketing and PR are very much intertwined, and I think more than ever probably. So, but yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
I think we have time for one last question, if anyone has a question. Danny has a question.
I'll ask you a question. I teach marketing here at Mount, and one of the things that we focus a lot on in our marketing classes is marketing math. And I was listening to Laura talk, and she's coming from a PR background, but it was interesting that she highlighted the importance of financial and analytics. So my question is really for the rest of the panel. How important in your day-to-day working lives is the financial aspect of the job? Share that.
So Danny's question was how important in your day-to-day work is the marketing financials and marketing math. How does that come into play?
It's huge for me. I oversee the marketing and sales budgets, as well as monitoring sales daily, and it's absolutely critical. I don't think you can really put together a solid marketing strategy without having a really solid understanding of dollars and cents. And obviously, back to what Laura was saying, being able to measure that and know that in certain cases that advertising spend had a return to you. So I would say, especially as you work your way up through your career and into various management levels, having a really solid understanding of the financial aspect. It's absolutely critical.
Yes. Become a spreadsheet wizard. Yeah. Because honestly, like, that's something I didn't really learn in school, but I learned on the job is how to really manipulate a spreadsheet, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets or whatever. That, to me, is a very important skill. So the earlier you can learn that, the better. And if you know how to manipulate a spreadsheet better than your boss, they'll love you forever. So, yeah.
I would say in my position, I mean, you can't get away from it, that's for sure. It's going to be out there in some degree. It's probably less in my position than if you're a manager or anything. But yes, I will definitely echo what you just said, that I know the superstars in our company are the young people that can come out there and just tear any spreadsheet apart and just come up and grab the important information right away. And they shine with their bosses. So you're absolutely right about that.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. On behalf of myself, the students, and the Business and Tourism Department here at the Mount, we would like to thank you all for your participation. And for students, please see Miriam or Danny to receive your learning passport stamps, and please exit through that door. Thanks so much.
I'm going to leave a couple of business cards behind in case anyone would like to grab them. They'll just be here.